Hey guys, I wanted to just talk about the story briefly with you and kind of guide you in today's discussion. So, first of all, I hope you like the story. I really like this writer. This full collection is really good. It deals with these same characters. And there's a second part to this. So, the first collection is called Drown, and this is when Junior is still living at home and dealing with family issues as a younger teenager. But then when he gets to be about 17, 18 years old, the second story collection is called This Is How You Lose Her. And that whole story collection is about his antics with girls. So his dating issues. He ends up being quite a womanizer, just like we see his father is in this story. And so, if you're interested in that, you can find some of the stories online. Some of these stories are taught in other schools, so you can find the PDF if you just Google it. I think some of these were also published either in the New Yorker or the Atlantic magazine throughout the years, so you can definitely find these stories if you're interested and you want to read some more. I picked this one though because I felt like I really like how these memories are put together, and that's one of the questions that I'm asking your group to consider today after you talk about each of the characters. The story itself, both are memories, and he's conflating them together. So he's telling us the story about the time he went to his family party and got in big trouble because, as per usual, he gets sick in the car. And so that's the connecting thread is this kid is he gets car sickness, he's nauseous, and so one of the memories about that is going to his family party, and the other memory is when he went to meet his father's mistress. So as you'll see in the prompt for today, that's the connecting thread in the narrative itself is two times that he remembers being nauseous. But the deeper aspect of that I want you to consider today is why else are these two memories together in his mind? They didn't happen at the same time. They didn't happen on the same day. He's telling us about a family party and his father's mistress. Two separate memories, but for multiple reasons, those two memories are together in his mind. So, part of your answer today, I want you to think about why that is. Aside from that, and actually your starting place for the discussion should be these characters. So we've got his mom, his dad, and his brother. You could talk about his aunt and uncle if you want to, but they're kind of secondary characters here. I want to show you one moment that for me connects to some larger themes, and that's one of your options for today as far as what you're going to say about the moment. So you should consider what these specific moments show about the characters, but also how it connects to a larger theme. I'm really going to try and push you here to draw larger conclusions. It's not enough just to describe the person and leave it at that. And in your comments, it's not enough just to say I agree or I disagree. Push yourself here to make sense of some of these smaller moments that don't really seem that important necessarily. Or there are also moments where nothing's technically happening, it's just the character describing something. Often we tend to skim over those parts thinking that they're not important, but actually I find that those, at least for me, are moments that hit the hardest. And judging by some of your responses to the others earlier in the week, some of you are picking up on some of these moments, but go even deeper. Find those smaller moments. So here's one that I think is really important. It's on page 39. So this is when he's talking about how he and his brother would go eat dinner at the mistress's house. Now, they're not young kids, these two. They're teenagers. So imagine some of the guilt that they might be holding in this moment. He says, me and Rafa, we didn't talk much about the Puerto Rican woman. When we ate dinner at her house, the few times Papi had us over there, we still acted like nothing was out of the ordinary. Pass the ketchup, man. No sweat, bro. The affair was like a hole in our living room floor. One we'd gotten so used to circumnavigating that we sometimes forgot it was there. Okay, this metaphor here of a hole in the living room floor is so perfect, I think. Not just for this story, but I think for family in general, right? And all of you are in your house with your family members. Maybe you're staying with relatives. Maybe you're living with people that you haven't lived with before, because I know a lot of people have been like consolidating households so that you guys can like pool resources together and, you know, kind of weather this storm together, which is a smart idea. But it also means that a lot of us are in living situations that we didn't anticipate being in. And in every family, in every household, in every relationship, even friendships, significant others, there's a hole in the living room floor, right? There is something or multiple things. Maybe it's in the past, maybe it's not, but there's something, there's an elephant in the room. But I like this metaphor better than an elephant in the room, you know? An elephant in the room makes it sound like it's some weird, outlandish secret that the family is consciously trying not to look at, and it's huge and it's big and it takes up a lot of space and you don't expect it to be there. I think this metaphor is a lot truer to how things feel, at least for me. A hole in the living room floor. It's totally in the way. How are you going to get around your living room floor, your living room in general? How are you going to get from one room to the other if there's a giant hole in your living room floor? But you do, right? Because it's not an elephant in the room. You don't actually have to talk about it, right? A hole in the living room floor is an absence of something. The elephant in the room is an addition of something huge and big and hairy and smelly. A hole in the floor is a vacancy, right? A void. And I think that that's what's happening in this family, right? There's an absence. There's an absence of stability. The father leaves for months and months on end. He ends up not coming back in one of the later stories. And Junior tells us in this story that that's what's going to happen. He says right here, maybe I already know how it would all end up in a few years. Mommy without Papi. Like that, he tells us that that's what's going to happen. The inevitability is there, just like the hole in the floor, right? You know what's going to happen. Eventually someone's going to fall through that hole, right? But the energy that it takes to walk around the hole, to jump over the hole, to step over it, right? To circumnavigate the hole, like he says here. We've gotten so used to going around it, going over it, that you forget it's there because it's an absence. It's not an elephant, right? The lack of stability in this family, the father's meanness, right? The absence of his understanding for his sons, the absence of his effort to be part of this family in a meaningful way. This guy just postures, right? All he does is kind of like puff up his chest, stick out his shoulders, and throw elbows, right? He tries to physically take up space in a very like violent sort of manner, almost like this old stereotype of like the man of the house that, you know, just has his backhand and his belt ready to hit anybody who challenges him. This is part of what Junot Diaz is trying to say. Might be of the time, it might be of the culture. It's a very specific thing, but I think a lot of people can relate to it. His brother and, you know, Junior and his brother, the fact that they are even sitting at this woman's house, right? This Puerto Rican woman, this mistress, and they ate dinner there. The absence, the hole in the floor there is the mother, right? Here's this other picture of family dinner, but the mom isn't there. Not because she's dead or not because she left, but just because the father is recreating this family in another house with another living room, right? And another kitchen, another woman. So I really, really like this metaphor of the house having a hole in it. And I think it's significant, too, that it's the living room, right? The living room where everybody gathers, right? Where you spend time together. So for there to be a hole in the middle of that room means a lot, it feels like. Because a lot of people are going to feel the kinds of absence that hole creates or that hole kind of points out to them. So look for these small moments. Another one that you might want to try talking about that really hits me is this picture. This is page 41, this picture of Mommy from when she was a young woman before she married Papi. This is a huge moment too. So I invite you to kind of look at a small moment like this where the photograph can be a metaphor, right? The hole in the floor can be a metaphor. The car itself can be a metaphor. All of these things that you're seeing in this story, the aunt giving food to Junior, right? Like all of these small moments can mean a lot if you draw a conclusion about a larger idea. And I listed some of them in the topic here for you. Um, Family, religion, guilt, denial. These things I think are really important in this story. And many of you in your earlier responses this week talked about imperfections, right? That no family is perfect. When I asked you what Junot Diaz's message might be, you said it might be that family isn't perfect no matter what, but it's what you got. And I think there's some real truth to that. Yeah, this is what he has. Unfortunately, this is a family party. But at the same time, there are some really sweet moments in this story at the party, but also in the car when the mother goes outside with Junior when he's throwing up so that he isn't alone, right? That's what the sentence said, so that I wouldn't be alone. You know, there are really quiet moments of family and love in this story that I think are worth looking at too. So challenge yourself here. Find a small moment. It can be one sentence, it can be a small paragraph like mine was, but try to go deep and see what you can reveal, not only about the character, but about some larger thing, some larger idea that this story might be trying to deal with in general. All right?